Hello everyone and welcome to Chart Forecast. My name is Zero and thank you for tuning in. In the fourth episode of this series, we will be analyzing and discussing the predictions for the Hot 100 week of February 18th, 2023. Now, once again, this doesn't seem to be a week where any major event disrupted the chart, but there still was a good amount of movements going on, opposite to a modest amount of debuts, so stick around to see what is going on this chart. And as always, do keep in mind that these are predictions using unofficial stats. Things are likely to change once the actual charts get published by Billboard, but they still do give a good idea of what's to come. Anyways, as always, let's start with our top 10, where once again, Flowers by Miley Cyrus is number 1 with still a solid gap, but some cracks are starting to show, as the song has just been doing nothing but losing these past few weeks, and even though it is still leading in streams and sales, it is not unlikely that something might happen in the next month or so that makes that number 1 spot pretty vulnerable. And that has everything to do with Kill Bill by SZA, which is still at number 2, but on the opposite has been gaining. Now, whether or not this song will still keep its robust streaming and airplay gains in a month's time is another story, but it is still very interesting nonetheless that people are now discussing the possibility of Kill Bill finally contending once again with Flowers, which is very interesting and might be telling of Flowers' potential weaknesses. Now, for our number 3, this song rose 24 spots up to this spot, and I tried to tell you guys about this last week as a major event. Last Night by Morgan Wallen rising 135% to the top 10. Now this song is carried by streams and sales, but has no radio, and again it doesn't seem like it is going to be the next single anytime soon, but it is pretty interesting that the streaming is not really losing as much as you would expect for this 1 week thing. And with this, the song is potentially spending another week or 2 in the top 10. Now this puts on number 4, Creepin' by Metro Boomin, 21 Savage and The Weeknd losing 1 spot in a little bit of a debacle, because yes, it is still gaining on radio and the streaming is still more or less stable, but it is not too far from peaking on radio, and it's really its main strength. It's still very much behind the top 2, so I doubt it is going to make any waves in that zone unless the music video that's soon to come and teased by The Weeknd is making a major impact. Speaking of major impacts, at number 5 and rising 10 spots into the top 10, Cuff It by Beyonce. Now obviously this is not the first week the song has in the top 10, but it is its highest peak ever, and it is driven by a massive sales campaign following Beyonce's history-making performance at the Grammys. However, despite the massive sales, the streaming is pretty mediocre. It is by far the lowest in the top 10 currently, and even though the radio is pretty stable, the sales are not likely to hold at all, which means I doubt the song will go beyond this number 5 peak. In similar boosting territory, we have Unholy by Sam Smith and PinkPantheress at number 6 and losing 1 spot, where the Grammys performance kinda made the song a little stable, but it is delaying the inevitable. The song is going to lose in the weeks to come. At number 7 and losing 3 spots, Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift. Now, even though this loss may seem bad, I doubt it is due to an actual loss in any category, just that the competition in the top 10 is slightly above it and it makes it seem like it's losing harder than it actually is in the stats. At least to me, it doesn't seem like the song is anywhere close to leaving. It is still fairly stable on streams and the radio isn't letting go of it too fast, so we'll have to see how long this song lasts ultimately. At number 8 and losing 2 spots, Die For You by The Weeknd, where it is still ruling overall radio for a second week, however it still has many of the same components, mediocre streaming and sales. And once again, I doubt the song is going to go into the top 5, even though the radio remains this stable and this big. In similar territory, I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexa at number 9 and losing 2 spots, where once again, pretty good radio, pretty decent sales, mediocre streaming, and the song has just done nothing but lose these past few weeks. So in my opinion, it is done. It is going to be interesting to see how long this song lasts from now on though. And speaking of, at number 10 and losing 1 spot, As It Was by Harry Styles, which just managed to sneak another week into the top 10 thanks to the Grammys performance, but once again the bulk of its stats are pretty residual, which means once again the song will lose in the following weeks. Now on to our losers and dropouts, where in the latter category we have a significant amount of big hits finally leaving the charts, starting off with Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj, Sunroof by Nicki and Daisy, and I Ain't Worried by One Republic, all dropping out this week. And in minor hit category, we have La Bachata by Manuel Turizo, which is leaving the chart after a pretty respectable run. I don't think anyone expected this song to last as long as it did. But now on to our losers, and much like last week, I will have to cut the list a little bit short as not all of the losers this week are really worth discussing about, so keep in mind once again, this is not the full list of losers. Nonetheless, we have at number 17 and losing 6 spots, Made You Look by Meghan Trainor. At number 33 and losing 11 spots, Shakira BZRP Music Sessions Volume 53 by Bizarrap and Shakira. At number 37 and losing 6 spots, I Like You by Post Malone and Doja Cat. At number 42 and losing 13 spots, Wait in the Truck by Hardy and Lainey Wilson. At number 48, Whiskey on You by Nate Smith, losing 5 spots. I kind of overestimated how stable this song would remain, that's my bad on that one. Love You Better by Future at number 76 and losing 7 spots. At number 86 and losing 11 spots, Snap by Rosalind. And finally at number 100, Circle Loco by Drake and 21 Savage, losing 13 spots. Now, all of this rotation seems to be consistent with what's happening in our gainers and re-entries, where despite no re-entry once again, we have a significant amount of gainers, much more than last week. But once again, we have to discuss Morgan Wallen, as with the full tracking week of his songs, there is a lot more going on with his songs this week. Starting off with Thought You Should Know gaining 8 spots to number 13, I Wrote the Book gaining 19 spots to number 39, One Thing at a Time gaining 7 spots to number 47, and Everything I Love gaining 10 spots to number 51. Now, I do find it quite surprising that Last Night gained significantly more both in positions and percentage than the other songs, but I guess that just shows how strong that song might be in the future. Outside of that, our biggest projected gainer this week is Hey More by Ozuna and Feid, which we missed last week in our debuts, gaining 14 spots to number 82. There also was a minor boost for some older songs, with About Damn Time by Lizzo gaining 9 spots to number 41, and Spin About You by Drake and 21 Savage gaining 5 spots to number 62. To my knowledge, this is getting a small amount of radio, though I have no idea if that's officially been pushed or not. In similar growing hit territory, we have Players by Cola Ray gaining once again 10 spots to number 28, and Sure Thing by Miguel gaining 5 spots to number 31. I'm finally happy to announce that it seems like this song has been resurfaced to radio, so expect this to stick around for way more than just a few weeks. But outside of all of those, first of all we have Nonsense by Sabrina Carpenter recovering 7 spots to number 65, AMG by Gabito Ballesteros, Peso Pluma and Nathaniel Cano gaining 12 spots to number 67, not the last time we'll hear from some of those guys in this episode, 1035 by Tiesto featuring Tate McRae gaining 6 spots to number 68, Shut Up My Mom's Calling by Hotel Ugly gaining 6 spots to number 70, La Rumpa by Arcangel and Bad Bunny gaining 9 spots to number 74, That's What Tequila Does by Jason Aldean gaining 9 spots to number 79, Do It Again by Emily Chopper and Touré gaining 5 spots to number 80, Ditto by New Jeans gaining 9 spots to number 81, Gato de Noche by Ñengo Flow and Bad Bunny recovering from last week 8 spots to number 89, and finally Heart to Heart by Mac DeMarco gaining 5 spots to number 93. To me, this does seem like some more recent hits are filling in the gaps for what's leaving currently, but with their constant shuffle between gaining and losing, there's not really a clear pattern here, which I don't know what that means for the rest of this year. But now we can move on to our debuts, where once again we have a modest amount of them, starting off with Sex, Drugs, Etc. by Beach Weather, which we are predicting once again to debut, this time at number 98. And next up we have 2 Million Up by Peezy at number 97. Now, I know I've talked about this song a fair amount already for this series, but it is quite similar in stats to Backhand by Finesse 2 Times, as in it once was a decent streaming hit but has lost that steam by now and is now majorly carried by radio. So once again, I don't really expect this to become big, just float around for some good amount of weeks in the bottom 20 or 30. This is also the first chart entry for this artist, and in similar-ish territory, at number 94, we have Don't Play With It by Lola Brooke featuring Billy B. The stats are quite similar, as in the streams are alright and the radio is what's really carrying the song to debut here, but I don't think this is gonna have the same trajectory. This one could honestly go anywhere. I've seen this one floating around the streaming charts for a little bit now, and it's surprising that the streaming audience hasn't been tired of the song by now. It has been a good amount of weeks since I've seen it, so we'll see where this one goes. At number 91, we have Yandel 150 by Yandel and Feid. This one, compared to Hey More, is much less radio carried and actually seems to have some pretty good streaming backbone, and it also seems to be a rising hit globally, so this song in my opinion is going to be a decent hit just like La Bachata was. At number 84, we are reprojecting a song once again, this time much higher, In a Mood by Ice Spice. This is due to another event that went on in the top 20 this week, which we will go back to in a little bit. At number 83, we have Watch the World Burn by Falling in Reverse. This is the first chart entry for this project, and it actually seems to be pretty balanced in terms of streaming and sales. It is quite surprising that the streamings are this good for a song in the rock genre. However, despite the fact that it is surprising that a rock song is managing to debut our first week performance and not due to a crossover event or anything of the sort, I don't think this one is going to stick around at all, to be completely honest. So this might be a one-time debut for the artist, we'll see. At number 71, and something I also told you guys about last week, PRC by Peso Pluma and Nathaniel Cano. And just like I told you guys, this song is just doing nothing but rising on streaming. And once again, like the other regional songs we've had recently on the chart, this one has no radio, but it is likely to get some in the future. So once again, we will see where this one goes. At number 56, we have Por Si Volvemos by Karol G and Romeo Santos. This seems to not be holding really well on streaming, so I do not think this one will stick around for the most part, but Karol G's album is soon and this could give the song some vitality. As it is right now, it doesn't really have a lot of radio, even though Karol G always gets good radio single performance going on, so have modest expectations for this one. And finally, the big event of this week, at number 14, Boy Is a Liar by PinkPantheress and Ice Spice. Now, Boy Is a Liar was on the Bubbling Under for a good amount of weeks before then, but the virality of the Ice Spice remix, which just released last Friday, made it enough to shoot it into the top 20. This is PinkPantheress' first chart entry. This song, even at the start of this tracking week, has done nothing but rise on streaming services, so I do think this is going to go into the top 10 next week. And that's pretty impressive for this song, even though it took quite a while to properly break out in the United States. And that is it for our projected debuts this week. Unfortunately, there's not really worth anything discussing on the Bubbling Under, except for maybe a Karol G song that might debut next week and that has been on Bubbling Under for a good amount of weeks now. But there's nothing really concrete going on. It's most likely going to chart once the album comes, but I'll tell you guys next week if it does manage to debut on our projections. But anyways, thank you very much for watching this 4th episode of Chart Forecast. Hopefully you guys keep enjoying this format. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you do have a good rest of the week.